Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now today we're taking another look at Matic. So thank you to my community for requesting that I cover this here again. This is actually a pretty big fan favorite for the community. So I really love covering this because it's one of my favorite coins. Honestly, it's got really good fundamentals. Speaking of which, you should always do your own research. This is for educational purposes only. I'm not here to be an educational or financial advisor. That is not my role. I'm just here to help maybe find good entry points, best practice, so you can be more informed and live a better trading lifestyle, right? I want you to trade for a lifetime instead of for just one day. Okay, so that's the whole purpose there. But if you would like to essentially get some benefits from my community, feel free to link in the description below. There is a Telegram community, awesome group of folks there. There's no cost there. And if you'd like to consider the Patreon account as well, I have a signal group where I send out 3 to 5 signals per week to help you kind of find good entry points instead of taking all the time in your day to find these things. I have more time for it. And I actually just traditionally love doing this, right? I love the analyzation, I love the charts, and I like being able to provide this to my community. So thank you so much again to my current subscribers. It's actually working out much better than I expected. We currently have an 83% success rate. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Hey everyone, let's go ahead and take a look at Matic. And before we do, we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first. Just kind of get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on with this altcoin. Okay, so first thing we look at is Bitcoin. And first of all, to preface, if you're new to the channel, again, I like to use TradingView desktop application, tradingview.com, and essentially I always utilize my 250-day simple moving averages. And this is a 4-hour chart, and you see this purple line here, that is the 200, the 50 is the orange line, I guess you could say, orange, yellow. Either way, that's what we're looking at here. And let's go ahead and zoom on into the price action currently. We are in very good shape here. And just to rewind a little bit, recently, I believe it was 24 hours. No, that's more like 48 hours ago. So sometime over the weekend, we had the price action getting rejected by the 50-day moving average, right? So you can see rejection, 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 and then 16 hours later, it blasts through. And if you're new to crypto or just trading in general, commonly when there's support and resistance levels, specifically the moving averages, when they're tested multiple times and then broken, they break hard and they break fast, and they usually have a much longer candle than usual. So just keep in mind that is essentially what happened there. And look at this, we got some sideways action and we broke upwards, and now we're testing the 200-day moving average. Now you'd say, oh, it's already broken. No, not exactly. This candle has to close first in order for that to be the case. But I think it's looking pretty good considering how high up there we are. So hopefully we get that to close above the 200-day moving average and we'll be in good shape. But big picture here, we have a 30,000 support level. There's also a 31,000 support level. Furthermore, there's a 41,000 resistance and a major resistance at 42,000. So we've got this channel that it's working in, and I like to rewind and look at this here just so you can see there is a lot of sideways action right now here from Bitcoin. We're not used to seeing Bitcoin go sideways for this long. So we're hoping for a breakout. It does look very similar to this pattern here before, so hopefully we can get some kind of increase in price and continue to break upwards the 42,000. And if that's the case, then all of our altcoins will look nice, shiny, and new because they're all getting a fresh coat of paint here with this increase in price. Ethereum is no secondary here, obviously, because if you take a look at this, same exact price action, if not greater, because Bitcoin's gone sideways a couple of times where Ethereum's just taken off. But that makes sense because Ethereum did bounce off of its support level of 1700 and continue upwards. So all in all, Ethereum's in very good shape right now. We have seen a pretty significant increase in the past, 25% in 24 to 48 hours. So pretty good increase there. Hopefully, if Bitcoin can continue to upwards of 40,000, then we'll see Ethereum also continue this trend to eventually try to test its major resistance at 2,900. Keep in mind, I counted this just the other day. We have tested 2,900 10 times total. Okay, so a lot of rejections there at 2,900. So if we can get up to that point, there's a strong likelihood it'll break through as long as Bitcoin's up over 42,000, because of the fact that the more often you test a resistance level, just like kicking a door in, the more likely it's going to break after it's after you've kicked it enough times, right? So we're hoping for that. That should occur. I would venture to guess in the next couple of weeks. Again, depends on price action from Bitcoin. Really just depends. but it does look like Ethereum is kind of slightly moving independent of Bitcoin at this point, just in the fact that it's more, 25% instead of just say 10 or 15% from Bitcoin. So it's recovering quicker, which we like to see. Now take a look at Matic. We always look at the one-day chart first. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, you'll know that I'm a big fan of top to bottom. Right? I like to look at the big picture and then work my way down. Because if we don't know what's going on in the big picture, how are we going to make a smaller investment, right? Or just an investment based on the smaller information. So that's kind of why I look at that. So just to note quickly here, we've got the 50-day moving average right here as the resistance level, potential resistance we don't know yet, and the 200 as a support. Okay, so neither have really been tested in a while, so we're going to see what happens in the near future. But for right now, those are pretty much non-existent. I don't put a lot of weight at them anyways. They're more important in the 4-hour chart. The MACD, however, here is converging in an upward fashion. So anytime you see the convergence that's about to intersect, that's usually a strong indication of a buy signal. If you're going long, in other words, a very long-term position as far as swing trading is concerned. Okay. In other words, you use a one-day chart if you're making a long-term investment, use the 4-hour chart if you're making like a medium-term investment, and so on and so forth, right? So the different time frames serve different purposes. But at this point, when this price converges here, we should likely to see an increase. So there's a strong likelihood in the next couple of days, Matic will continue upwards. Again, pending Bitcoin going sideways or upwards. RSI is still pretty low. Don't need to worry about that, but that is really good news. And all in all, we've got plenty of room for growth here. And the last thing I like to identify is essentially the average true range for Matic before we go ahead and go any further. Just because, Matic's done very well for itself. Because if we look at some of the more important time frames, like April 17th, for example, that was the first major sell-off from Bitcoin. And that happened way back here before it took off. So it's really hard to really note that there was a decrease, but it wasn't much. And then what's interesting is on the 25th, April 25th is essentially the day in which Bitcoin had its last major sell-off, and then everything ramped back up then because Bitcoin recovered. So we can see a strong ramp up here, of course, and then sideways action, had to consolidate, and then it took off again. But what's interesting is on May 12th, the Elon candle right here, Bitcoin barely closed red. Right? Bitcoin's like, no, we're not gonna be impacted by Tesla no longer accepting Bitcoin. That doesn't matter to us. And then look at this, 2 days later, as if it never happened. I mean, we got a significant increase, upwards of 153% in a matter of 5 days. That was right after the Elon candle. Now, what kind of screwed Matic is the China candle, right? Now that screwed everyone, really. But what's interesting is it didn't really hit it right away, because the 18th here, this big green candle, that's when the China candle occurred, and then there was a significant retracement the day after. That happened for two reasons, partly because the price action jumped up so fast in those 5 days that it had to retrace halfway. So commonly, if we see just say this 5-day increase of 150%, it should have stayed around $1.73. Instead, it broke down and eventually closed that trading day at 161. So it did pretty well, but there was a big residual after that with the market coming down as well. And then, you see some sideways action, and then of course, Bitcoin doing poorly here. So generally speaking, what I'm trying to get at here is that this retracement should have only happened down to about 173. So I first see, and here's the interesting thing, we can actually look at this. $1.73 is major support and resistance level 2. So I would venture to guess that our price action will continue upwards back to that. The average true range for Matic should be $1.73. Let's just say a range of 150 to 190. But 173, I feel, is going to be a pretty major resistance. But just generally speaking, that's where the price should be based on its history, had those things not happened, right? So I like to look at that because it really helps us understand if we're on the right track. And yeah, an investment right now at $1.22 is a steal. I love it. Shoot, would have been nice to get in $1, but we can't always get what we want. All right, so moving on to the 4-hour chart. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So this is good news. We're up over the 50 now. Do you see this? This is essentially what happened with Bitcoin a couple days ago, right? You see the price action pushing it down. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles, basically 20 hours of rejection, and then it broke through. See how it broke through fast and hard? That's essentially what's happening now. So the last 8 hours have been pretty much open season to get the price action back up. We do still have a resistance, potentially at $1.47 for the 200, but I'm not super worried about that. RSI is over 45. We're looking pretty good there. MACD's basically telling us we got bullish momentum. So all indications here are positive. All right, so let's look at the 1 hour chart, and we always look at the Ishimoku cloud just to quickly identify. Big surprise, we are up over the cloud here, and that is essentially meaning that we have a buy signal. And if you're new to Ishimoku cloud, the 1 hour chart is the most effective time frame for that. I'm more of a 4 hour chart kind of guy. I love that chart, as we just identified, of course, but when it comes to the actual Ishimoku cloud, the 1 hour chart is the best. Okay, so it just gives us the best signals, so that's why I use it. And generally speaking, the price is over the cloud. It's a buy signal. If it's under the cloud, here, for example, it would have been a sell signal. So you would have made a pretty decent return had invested there. Again, it's not foolproof, but it does help, right? We want to identify that. And we'll leave this little guy on here so we can see on the 15-minute chart what that looked like, because oftentimes it's usually a sideways followed by retracement and a ramp back up, which is right there. All right, so what do we typically do on the 15-minute chart? We use our EMA line as well as our VWAP. If you're new to the channel, the VWAP is this blue line here. It's the volume weighted average price. It takes the volume in the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. So right now, based on the volume, the price should be $1.18, whereas it's upwards of $1.22. 4 cents, not a big deal, but let's take a look at that variance. That is only 3%. Okay, so not significant, not super huge, which is good, because oftentimes when that difference occurs dramatically, like just say 10% or larger, then we oftentimes see a strong retracement, the price comes back down. This is nice because it's still up over the EMA line and it's moving sideways here, so there's a good chance that we'll see some consolidation before the next ramp back up. Okay, let's just take a quick look at this cloud here though, just to identify. This is where the price broke through the cloud, right? So what do we see here that's kind of a potential good entry point? Well, these little yellow up arrows are basically telling us, that these are entry points, because that's how my notification is set up, right? This is something I have available through my Patreon account. But if you see here, these two green bars are closing above the EMA and VWAP line, right? And again, the EMA line is an exponential moving average. It works kind of like a momentous indicator. The MACD is essentially the same thing, where it gives us a 12 and a 26, right? They're converging and diverging. Well, this gives us the same amount on the price action itself. Okay. So that being said, we got this all right here. So this kind of tells us that we're in pretty good shape to essentially continue upwards. Okay. So that's the confirmation I like to look for. 30 minutes confirmation above EMA and VWAP. All right. So we got that indication there. Had you taken a position, you would be in pretty good shape right now. Same thing happened here as well. You got the same indication telling us there's a buy signal. And all these things are occurring right next to the cloud, right? So it's interesting coincidence, right? Or is it? No, it really isn't, because the cloud really is a good indication of a long position, and these are too. This just works better on the 15-minute chart, whereas the Ichimoku works better on the 1 hour. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at there. So ultimately, just a note, the price being over EMA line here, this is a good bullish indication, and we're looking pretty good. So I'd say that, Matic in the next few days is going to continue upwards, right? We're going to see some type of price increase, likely somewhere in the 140, 150 range. Okay. Again, pending Bitcoin not crashing back down to 30,000, I think Matic is going to take off and continue to do very well. All the indications are here. Everything's looking very good. And I really just like the way that it's moving upwards. It's doing pretty well. But just remember, average true range for Matic is 150 to 190. So it really should be in that channel. And for it to be down as low as 123, to me, this is a bargain, a very good price. And I would say that there is no bad investment under 140, right? So I would say get in before it takes off. Again, pay close attention to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts selling off, then Matic could very well do the same. Even though Matic does well, contrary to Bitcoin, it is oftentimes the catalyst that causes people to have that that fear and uncertainty and doubt, right? That cause them to pull their positions out, and that can cause the price to go back down where it shouldn't be. Again, just something to note. But big picture, I think Matic has strong room for improvements. I think we're looking to be at a good place right now, and the price action right now is extremely low. So I do feel like it's a good value. So hopefully you did find benefit from this video. Please like and subscribe if you had. And obviously, feel free to reference my Telegram community, link in the description below, as well as my Patreon. If you'd like signals, I can provide 3 to 5 signals per week on good entry points. Just kind of, take the research away, right, from you and to allow me to do that for you. So I have that opportunity, and I like to provide that to my community because that was a big request. So thank you all again to my current subscribers for requesting I cover that. It's turned out to be very successful. We had an 83% success rate last week. So looking forward to it next week and getting y'all on the right track. So thanks again. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon. Take care.